Welcome to Speaking from Experience, presented by APR Media Studios. And welcome back to Speaking from Experience, and I am very, very excited. I have in studio with me Rachel Woolf, and Rachel, we have known each other now for what?
Probably more than 10 years.
Probably more than 10 years, yeah. I met you when I first came to Jennings County as a history teacher, had you in class, and you were a tremendous student.
Only for you.
You were for me. Yeah. I mean, you really were. But when I reached out to you, since even in high school and since then, you've had some ups and downs. Mm-hmm. But you are a person who blows me away with your creativity. And even when you're in my class, when you are motivated for something, you are one of the most impressive people I know. And I wanted to kind of tell your story and give you a chance. So thank you so much for being here.
I'm glad to be here.
So let's go all the way back. And in high school, let's just start right there. And I mean, we can even go back farther before I knew you. But in school, you say you were a good student for me.
Yeah.
Why were you not in other classes?
I don't know. Like in history class, I always, I understood it. I felt like confident in it, and I had a good time in the class. And other stuff, I would struggle with it. Like if I felt like I didn't understand something, I would kind of give up on it. I think that's why I did so good in your class, because for some reason that just clicked with me, and I was like, okay, I got this, and I just went with it.
And see, that surprises me too, because in a lot of other areas in your life, you don't quit in things that you do. You know, right. you have a resiliency and a grit about you that you don't. So it's interesting to me in school, and we all know that school is not designed for everybody.
It's not. I do so much. If you take me like for work, and it can't be sit down. I have to run around. I have to be doing stuff. And from school, even all the way up, I ended up taking my GED class, and I was trying not to fall asleep. I was like, I couldn't hang in school. I didn't do well.
And and that's something that I've tried to remember. And even as an adult, I forget where I was. Oh, I was at the principal's conference just a couple weekends ago, and even sitting in their sessions, and the sessions were like 45 minutes to an hour. Mm-hmm. I struggled because even more now than probably before, because as a principal, my day, I'm up, I'm moving, I'm constantly doing something. Right. So to just sit and listen to somebody for an hour, I couldn't hardly keep my eyes open. No. It was hard.
No, especially when it came to like math or science or something that I might have missed part of it, or I didn't understand it. And then it was basically just going on to something more I didn't understand. I was just like, oh my gosh. So I did really well on my, as far as being like smart in school, my GED test, I took my GED 2011. So I think I was supposed to be in 10th grade, but I was still at the high school. I was in 9th grade.
Yep.
So then I transferred to the alternative, the JCEC, and my GED scores were awesome in everything. Even in math, I don't know how I pulled it off, but I got my scores back like 2 years ago when I started going to Ivy Tech. And I was like, oh, my gosh, I was smart. What?
But do you think part of that is that you saw that there was an opportunity for you to be done? In the sense that, and I think that's a struggle for a lot of kids in high school that we deal with is, oh, my gosh, I got 4 years. And when you get behind, just like you just said, all right, I'm really supposed to be a sophomore, but credit-wise, I'm a freshman. Now I'm looking at 5 years. Mm-hmm. There's a little more motivation to say, hey, I can go past this GED test and move on with life. Yeah,
and the way that they talked to me about it, they were like, you're behind. If you take this test, you can get started in college earlier, or and to me, I wanted to get working. So that was a big thing, and once I realized I could do that, I tried to go back to the high school. I thought about it. I did actually the Versailles school for a little bit, the CNA. That was cool. But in the end, it was just like, okay, let's just take this test and get out of here.
And once your mind is there, and I think it's tough for kids too, because I would say this about you, and I don't know if you'd agree with it. I found you to be a very mature child and student. I shouldn't say child, young adult when I knew you, but you were very mature for your age. You didn't deal with a lot of the other high school drama that was going on, or whatever the big thing going on at the school was that day. you didn't really involve yourself in it.
My own stuff going on.
Yeah.
I was just like, yeah, definitely. That's another reason I think I kind of detached from it, because I went through a lot of stuff when I was younger that made me not feel, I don't know how you'd say it, like equal. I didn't feel at the same level as like maybe girls my age did, or other kids. So like there was a lot of detachment there where I was like, well, we're not really talking about the same stuff. That, that didn't go on with you. So, then you kind of keep to yourself and you got your own life going on. So yeah, that was a big part of it.
Why did you not feel equal to them?
Well, I just felt I would I don't know how to say it. I guess there was things that I would go through when I was younger, like family things, or things where a lot of adult situations. And then I would spend time with friends who were like supposed to be my age, and we would, and we would have fun together, but I didn't really have as much fun doing regular things anymore, because I feel like I had already been through all this stuff and I had been mature through that. And then this other person's like, oh, let's go to the pool. And I'm like, well, that sounds lame.
Yeah. I'm beyond that now, because I agree with you. I mean, if someone at 34 years old, my age right now, somebody's like, let's go to the city pool, that sounds like the most miserable afternoon of my life.
Exactly, yeah.
But so, and I think it's really interesting when you say that, because I also think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's why we connected so well, because one thing I love to do was to really talk to my students and talk to them in, I guess in an adult way of just trying to get to know them, know their lives. And I think that you probably gravitated towards that because it was somebody that you could talk to on a more adult level.
Yeah, because you were a younger teacher.
I was.
At that point, yeah. So I think that's probably a good reason, too, why I got along in your class, because I was like, I felt more at home there than the other ones, for sure.
So okay, so we get to that point. You don't really feel like you belong. You've went over to take your GED. Where does life take you from there?
Oh my gosh, so many places. I went, I worked around Seymour for a while. I never really worked in North Vernon. I always went to Seymour. And I worked in Seymour for a while. I helped out with my dad a lot. My dad worked construction, and he didn't have his license. So a lot of times I was working, but I was driving him, to crazy jobs and stuff all the time. And then my mom's brother, my uncle, just called me out of the blue and was like, do you want to come to Florida? And I was like, yeah. So I went to Florida, and then I went to Pennsylvania, New York. I did all kinds of that stuff, but I basically left North Vernon right after that. I came back a couple times, but yeah, I left them. I was 17 when I went to Florida the first time.
And in Florida, you were training horses, correct?
Yeah.
So how do you end up, because I knew that you had always had a passion for horses.
Yeah.
So how do you end up down there and training horses?
So it was kind of crazy, because I went down there, and I don't think anybody, I think a lot of people kind of counted me out because I didn't finish high school. So like when I got down there, I think he kind of thought I was just going to be like a dummy and like just whatever, do it, And when I got there, I was like, well, I need money. And so I went and got a job. I didn't know how to do the horses other than just like being around them. Mm-hmm. But, there's so much that goes into taking care of a horse that you don't even have any idea. And then you start, and I just went and found a random job, and I was like, oh, I got to be there at 5. So see you guys tomorrow. And I started working there with a person. And in the horse business, you travel. You go from track to track for like meets. So that's how I ended up bouncing around so much, as I would travel with people, and I would go back to stay with my Uncle Nick sometimes. That he did his own thing, kind of, because basically I got down there and I was like, okay, thanks, see you later.
Thanks for the invite. Yeah. Now I'm on my own.
Yeah. Yep.
So at 17 years old, and again, I think this goes back to show your maturity, but at 17 years old, did you have anxiety or concern? I mean, I'm moving, because I also know this. You and your family are extremely, extremely tight.
Oh, yeah.
And so to at 17, just jump and say, I'm headed to Florida, I'm on my own. Was there any, or were you so tough that you...
I wouldn't say tough. I would say I was so 17 and like, I was like, oh, I'm doing this. I'm doing things. And so when I first left, it that bad. As time went on, then it got really hard for me. But I was basically going to California at that point. I was good with it.
You had set your mind that this is what I'm going to do. And, and see, I'll give you credit there too. I think that's something, and I'll be honest, I mean, even in my past, there were things that I always thought I wanted to do, or I guess adventures I would say I'd want to take. And you let life and safety and comfort keep you from doing it. So I will give you credit even in that sense of being willing to say, you know what, I do have some anxiety and some worries, but I'm not going to show it. I'm going to fake it until I make it and just say, yeah, I'm going after it.
Oh yeah. Charlie says that to me all the time. He's so mad that I left and went and did that. He said, I've always been here. I was like, it's so comfy here. You can call mom anytime. You don't have to worry if you get a flat tire. I was like, it's hard. You don't want to do it.
But is that what has made you who you are?
Oh yeah, definitely. It really has. There's a lot of difference now I can see from being by myself for so long. And not that, my family didn't help me. But we were always doing different things. Because like I said, I basically went down there and I was like, okay, thanks for bringing me to Florida. And, definitely I went my own way and had to deal with stuff that happened on my own a lot.
To go back to that, when you talked about in high school and those things, you didn't feel equal. Mm-hmm. As you're going through that and kind of on your own, and even to today, I guess, do you still have those feelings, or do you feel now that you are, you are equal? Because like you said, some people took you as, well, she's probably not very intelligent because she didn't finish high school, those kind of things.
Mm-hmm. I would say it went away as I went on, because once you get into like the workforce, people don't know you. So that actually helped me a lot, because, nobody knew that I didn't finish high school or I didn't do this or whatever. I basically got to start out, and which is hard because when you're, 17, 18, I'm sure I didn't make the best choices that I wanted people to like know me at. Like, that's probably not the adult me that I would present.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But that really helped me overcome a lot of that. And plus, you're with people of all different ages. Mm-hmm. I'm not stuck with just my peers anymore. I'm with older. One of my best friend for like 5 years is 62. So I did a lot better in the workforce than I did, getting along with people.
Well, and I'm sure for you too, just like you said, when you want to learn, get me up, get me moving, let hands-on type stuff. Mm-hmm. That's in the workforce. It's about, what can you do for us? It's not about, can you sit down and take this test? It's not about, can you answer these questions? Or even the point of, can you just do this homework? Not even the fact of, are you learning it, but do you just do it? Mm-hmm. So now you've got that opportunity that I can really shine, because this is what I'm good at and this is what I can do.
Yeah, I really loved it because, and, like I said, I didn't know that much about horses, the inner workings of it until I basically was like, I started working for somebody, and that's their money is a horse. So it was kind of like, you need to learn this right now. And then it would be cool because it was kind of like a competitive thing with other people. And I'm really bad about being competitive at work. And so that was really cool for me because I was learning stuff every day, but I was also seeing what other people were doing. I was like, I want to do that too. I can do that better.
Yeah, you want to pick up every little tip that you can.
I really ate that up with the horses for sure.
So from Florida, then you end up in Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. Still training horses in Pennsylvania?
Yep.
Is that with a different group now? Did you jump or?
I pretty much stayed with the same person I worked for. He was a really nice guy. He had a daughter my age too. So I kind of just jumped in the family there. And we worked in Pennsylvania. And when you race in Pennsylvania, there's about 4 other tracks that are close by, like in driving range. Mm-hmm. So we were all the time in New York, and I think New Jersey has one too. So there was a lot of traveling, and Pennsylvania is beautiful. I lived in the Poconos.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So people are always talking about vacationing there, and I'm like, I live there.
Yeah. That was my address. Yeah. So then what brings you back here to Indiana?
Well, for one, I really miss my family. And I'm also really stubborn. So when I did this for so long, and it's hard, the horses, it's hard on your body. you can make good money. That's true, but there's not insurance. There's not anything like that. So basically, you're
gambling. You're gambling with your body.
Right. And so at that point, I was like, oh my gosh, I miss my family. And Charlie and Sam were about to graduate high school, I think, when I came back. And I was like, well, I'll just come back for a little bit anyway. And then once I got here, I was like, I don't want to leave again. This is better.
And so when you get back, you obviously the horse racing industry in Indiana isn't as big as some of the other areas you're at. So what did you come back looking for? What did you want to accomplish?
I really wasn't sure. I think I was just tired because that's I was, I think, 22 when I came back. So I was 17 to 22. I was just bouncing around, and, if I made a bad decision with money or anything like that, that was all on me. If you had no money, there was no food, stuff like that. So
you just had to figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. So I think by the time I came back, I was just like, oh my gosh. But I was so stubborn when I was out there. I was like, I can do this. I got it.
I'm not calling anybody. I'm not asking. I can see that in you 1,000%.
Yeah. So by the time I actually did come home, I was like, oh, I'm just so happy to be here. Like, whatever happens,
I don't even care what I have to do.
Yeah, I don't care. I'll visit the horses. Yeah.
So isn't it amazing too? Because I had that same feeling when I was in high school. I swore up and down that I was never going to be in a small town again. I was not going to live in a one stoplight town like I grew up, and I was going to be in Chicago or Cincinnati or somewhere where things were happening. And I always joke. Then I ended up living in Vernon, and there was no stoplights.
Yeah.
But you know what? As I grew up, and I probably had, even when I first came to Jennings County, 24 or 25, probably resented that a little bit in the fact that my ultimate goal was to leave again and get to the city. But now at 34 with 2 boys and raising a family, you're exactly right. There's no place better.
No, there's not. The bigger the city, the bigger the city, the colder it is. So you're on your own. You're on your own. And here, I mean, there's so many people that you don't even know that knew, like, your parents or your grandma, and they're like on your team. They're there for you, and you have no idea about it. So yeah, it's a huge difference. It's a good feeling.
Absolutely. And it's the same way, with our boys. Our boys can go to a basketball game and run around, and 1,000 people that are there all know whose kid that is and are all watching out for them and all. So it is, and we put it down way too much because it is a great place. So you end up back here. What's our next steps once we're here?
So once I got here, Charlie and Sam were, I think, like junior and senior in high school. And my mom pretty much was just, taking care of them, getting them where they need to go. I don't think they all had their license yet. So I went to work at TA in Seymour. I worked there for 3 years, and it was really cool. It was like, I never thought of myself as a waitress because I always worked outside, but I got along with the truck drivers. So that's probably the best place for me to be a waitress at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I always loved when you would I didn't love it. It would frustrate me when you would make posts about people not tipping you.
Oh, yeah.
And not that you made them all the time, but that's got to be, as a waitress, like the worst thing in the world.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think, the truck stop got counted out as far as, like, people thinking of that as, like, a tipping place sometimes because the drivers had to go there. There's nowhere else for them to park. So I think sometimes in their mind they were like, oh, I have to go there. There's no option. This is regular. But, I would get pretty upset because, they were they would talk a lot of crap there and make a lot of mess. And so then when I would come out and I'd be like, oh, and you don't tip also. Okay. Thank you.
You are the complete package.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's, and I have never waited tables in my life. It is not a job I've ever had, and it is not a job I ever want to have. And that's not knocking people who do it at all.
No, it's hard.
It is not for me.
No.
Because I would get very upset and say things to people I shouldn't. But that's why anytime I have a waitress, I try to over-tip them.
Yeah, me too. Same. My mom was a waitress whenever I was younger, and then I did it at the truck stop, and then I actually waitressed at a couple places in Greenwood when I moved up there, and it's hard. Every single person I've ever worked with, they've got kids, they've got a family, they're, running around. And if you decide that you're not going to pay your part, I mean, that's their salary. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's more than what you're not like doing someone a favor by tipping them.
No, and they're not going out and buying a new Corvette.
No.
They're trying to live.
No, and I will say for waitressing, it's like when my dad was sick, I could not have had a different job because it's so flexible. And that's why people do that. They're in school and your waitress might be going to school to be a nurse or a doctor. Mm-hmm. So maybe you should, they get a bad rap. And they're actually doing a lot bigger things. That's why we have to have a flexible schedule.
Absolutely. And, I saw this on Facebook, and we're actually, a group of our friends is getting ready to do it. Have you seen the group that posted about they do the breakfast and everybody brings $100?
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, so we're going to try and do that over the holidays. And everybody brings $100 and just to change somebody's life like that. Like,
it would.
I mean, it
really would.
Because, again, like you just said, people are either doing it because they're on to bigger things, or they have kids at home that they're trying to raise. They need that flexible schedule to be able to do it, or it's a second job to make ends meet.
Oh, yeah.
And, 99% of the time, if there's an issue at the restaurant, it's not your waiter or waitress's fault in any way.
For sure. And I feel like immediately if there's a lot of the petty things that people will not tip over or will make a scene over, like most of the time if you just bring it to someone's attention, like even if your waitress or your waiter is not right there, you can tell a manager or something. I feel like everywhere I've worked has been like so quick to fix things.
Yeah.
So like even if your steak is bad, like here's another one. Yeah, everywhere I've worked that has been like that.
And I have never, it has frustrated me, and I'm not saying this to pat myself on the back, but because I'm a people watcher, that's my sociology background, but when I sit and I watch people and I can tell they're not going to tip a waitress, and if I have the same waitress and I'm overhearing them complaining, I immediately am going to tip even more.
Oh, yeah.
We were actually just at Cracker Barrel the other day, and when I checked out and put the tip on the receipt, the lady was like, "Did you hit that wrong?" And I'm like, "No."
Yeah.
I said the next table over that she was serving to, they're not going to tip her at all. And the lady's like, "Really?" And I said, "No, I already heard them. They're going to round the dollar up, so she's going to get like 32 cents."
Right.
Like that's just
ridiculous. And it doesn't do anybody any favor. I think like when you're like their tips are their salary. So if you go to no tipping, then you're going into where the food costs more. And you're not going to get a personalized experience like you came there to get. So I think it's like everybody's personal responsibility.
And I want, not that I want to be known, but obviously we're in a small town. I see a lot of the same waitresses.
I worked at Lakeside Pizza. We know. We know who you are. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that I need to walk in and everybody needs to be like, "Oh, there's Dustin Roller. It's so great." That's not the case, but I don't want to walk in and a waitress be like, "Oh my gosh, I got him again." Just because if I'm going out to eat and going to spend the money, I want to have a good time.
Right.
I want a waitress that wants to be there, that will have a conversation with me, joke with me. So I want them to be like, "Oh, hey, cool. They're back in again. Let's go to work for them."
It's a huge deal. Anybody who's doing that is doing it because they're getting through, their life is happening to them and they're trying to do their best to get through it. So there's no reason to.
And the other thing that I would say that I think we forget way too often is they're allowed to have a bad day too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it will happen. There was days where I would go in and I would be like, okay, super good mood. And, the first like 2 or 3 things that happen, everybody's watching you. When you're like me, I can get anxiety like that. I just get, And so when you feel like people are like, "Oh, I don't like her," and then that kind of makes you like, oh, okay, and you have to keep going through that. And after a couple of those, that can turn your day around,
Yeah.
So it's everybody's experience.
And that's the whole thing. I mean, all of us have bad days. All of us have off days. All of us woke up not feeling the best, but still crawled into work because it's what we needed to do.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes when we're sitting there, we forget those things that, hey, I had a crappy day 3 days ago. I was just lucky enough I didn't have to go serve everybody.
Exactly.
I could hide a little bit from everybody seeing me. So after TA, you go to Greenwood.
Yep, I went to Greenwood because my boyfriend does the electric poles and the line work.
Yep.
So he got a better job up there. And that was really hard for me because I had never worked up there. So now I have an apartment, car payment, all this stuff going on. And I'm basically starting a new job. And they were all waitress jobs, which is why I'm so adamant about that. Like, be nice to people. And so yeah, it wasn't my favorite. It was tough time for me. I was like by myself a lot, and I was working, meeting new people. It was like a big struggle. But I took it I always run off somewhere and start over. So I was like, I got it, whatever. But yeah, this one I wasn't too happy about. So I ended up coming back to, and I still have my place up there. I stay there a lot of times, but I also come and stay with Mom. So it's like a balance.
So when you talk about, starting over and meeting new people, and I know you've talked a little bit about your anxiety and what it can do. Mm-hmm. Does that really hold you back from meeting new people?
Sometimes it can. I can talk myself out of it. If I let myself think about it, then yeah. It will, but for the most part, I've been pretty lucky as far as it not. I've made a lot of good friends and stuff through working up there, and it wasn't too bad. But I definitely feel it myself. Whether I shared it or not with other people, I felt it a lot.
Whether you worked through it or not, it was there. And my anxiety that I deal with, I think it's the same thing. Like, I immediately think, and this sounds so awful if people don't deal with it. But I think when I meet someone new, or I'm in a new place, my first thought is, are we really going to be friends? Is it going to be, am I going to end up not liking them? Is it going to end up being more trouble than it's worth? And I create all of these issues in my mind that aren't even there. Yeah. But I create them for myself.
For sure. I think I have like a social meter. And so like I have so many people that I met and I adore them. But I'm also really careful about how much plans I want to make and how available I seem because, people will take, and if you're somebody like me, some people have it. Some people love to be around people all the time, but that's not me. I like to go home and, put the blackout curtains up and, go be by myself.
But see, I think that's funny too, because, and this is why people, I think, look at me so weird when I say those things. And I would say the same thing about you. People don't realize that you can be that way, but obviously in working in waitressing, you have to be on point. You have to put on this, I don't want to say a show, because you are a very sweet person, but same thing for me as a principal. I deal with people all day long. I'm social all day long. And I think that's part of it is that, I always joke and say, if I made Subway sandwiches all day, I wouldn't want to eat Subway for dinner. It's kind of the same thing when I get home. Like, once I'm done with people, I'm done.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
I don't want to go.
That's how I
talk
feel.
to people more.
That's why I don't think I really ever got into going out like to the clubs and stuff, because I like personalized experience. When I'm with my friends, I like to do something with just that friend or just a couple friends. I don't. There's a lot of people my age that feel most comfortable when they're like at a bar or something like that, and there's tons of people around them and they're friends with everybody. I envy those people because I'm just like, man, that must be fun. But to me, I feel so much better if me and my best friend are just watching TV together, or we go have dinner together.
I would agree with that too. I think that's I've always said that too. I've got a lot of buddies that love going to the casino. I'd rather sit around and play cards at my house.
Yes, I think that's such a more personalized experience. Because when I spend time with someone, because it's so important to me when I do spend my time. So when I do choose to spend time with somebody, I just want to be with that person and enjoy the time. And I just feel like social stuff takes a lot out of me. So like once I get, and I'll try to go out, but by about halfway through it, I'm like, let's go home.
And then you start why did I do this?
Right.
I knew this wasn't going to work.
And I try for people, but it's better. I have a way better time just being one-on-one with people or just in a close group. Yeah, for sure.
I can totally agree and feel with that. And it's, I think for me too, and it's that I have lots of acquaintances and friends, but those that are really close to me, I want it more quality than quantity of time. Definitely. I guess is what I would say. So you end up in Greenwood. Mm-hmm. It's not really the great fit for you. You said you still got the place there. Yeah. Now you are kind of back a little bit,
right?
Splitting time, And you're at Walmart distribution now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it there.
So how did you go from I'm waitressing, I'm working on horses to I'm at Walmart DC?
Yeah, I think Walmart DC has always been there. Like, I think people have worked there since like the day I was born. So I know people there right now that have started like December 93. And so I always knew it was there. And I was like, that's a good job. One day when I'm ready to, be here all the time, I'll probably apply for that. And I had known so many people that applied, and it took like 6 months to hire on. So by the time I actually did put my application in there, I didn't even think that they were going to call me. They called me the next day. I was like, oh, okay, I work here now. So let me rearrange things. Yeah. So I ended up getting that job, which was like thrilled me because, like I said, I always thought it was a good job and I always wanted to get it. But, I didn't ever think I was going to be here. I was like, because factories our warehouses aren't like waitressing. So, like, you can't be late because this happened and this happened,
right.
So I was like, I don't know if I'm ready to set myself up for this. And, but yeah, I ended up going and I got weekend night shift. And I don't do anything on weekends anyway. So it worked out perfect for me. I'm actually the longest person on my shift.
Really?
Yeah, because nobody likes to work the weekend nights.
See, I think I would want that shift.
Me too.
Because you end up with more time off during the week anyway. And anything you want to go do during the week is going to be less busy than what it is on the weekend. So I can kind of see where you're coming from. Now, I think I would struggle with nights. I think I would have to totally change myself from what I've done for the last 15 years. But so you love it. What is it that you love about it?
So it reminds me a lot of when I was working with the horses because it's like kind of a really big building. Mm-hmm. So I work in the shipping area. So I got, a huge free roam area of where I'm going and I'm doing all kinds of different things. I'm always moving. And there's challenges there like there was before. In serving, there was challenges, but they were more like social challenges.
Right.
So these are like personal achievements that, I see somebody do something. I'm like, oh, how do I learn how to do that? So I kind of hang around that person for a while and, pick up what they're doing. And so, yeah, I think it really does remind me. I don't know how necessarily, but there's a lot of things that remind me of when I used to do the horses. So I feel really at home there.
And your competitiveness comes out there.
Yeah.
And you're not relying on, like we talked about with tipping, You're not relying on someone else to, when you do a good job. I think that would be the thing with waitressing, too. You can do a great job and then end up with nothing. Right. At least if you're doing a great job at Walmart DC, you're going to be rewarded for it.
Definitely. And I was lucky. It works good for me because, there's the 4 shifts there, and there's obviously way more people on day shift for the weekends and the week part. So I actually got really lucky for who I am and how I work and excel. I got so lucky being put in the group I was put in because it's smaller and there was more opportunity to learn because, there's people on the day shift. There's so many of them that everybody is trying to move forward. So it's a lot harder there. So for me getting put where I was put, it was just like nothing but room for, you had
that road to go up. Mm-hmm. So I also want to transition there because one other thing that I'm always so impressed with you is your artwork. And you are a very, very talented artist.
Oh, thank you.
So where did your love of art kind of come from?
I have always really loved to draw. Sam is very good at drawing too. So I think both of us, we always like to do that at home. And with the painting, I saw it on Pinterest. So my boyfriend Tanner, I've been with him since I was 22. So we've had a lot of ups. We've been through all that. But back when we first got together, something on Pinterest was like a back painting, and I was like, that looks cool. He's like, I'm down. I was like, yes.
I think that's the coolest thing in the world. I love when you do them.
Yeah, I know. I have so much fun with them, and I haven't done one for a while because he enjoys them. So I'm like, he'll try to like take advantage because I was like, no, this is something I'm doing for me. It's not for you. So yeah, I've been withholding them for a while, but yeah, definitely. So I had fun with that. And once I started doing that and messing with it, then I was doing all kinds of stuff, crafty.
And I think for me, and I love tattoos, and I think that's what I love about the back paintings. It's like it's something that you can continually do. But it also amazes me the artwork that people do that is not forever. I always find so intriguing because you put that time in, but it's not going to be there forever. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've got a photograph of it. I watched a documentary the other day, a show, and it was about a guy who does these unbelievable paintings in dirty car windows.
Oh, my gosh.
So, like, he wipes them away, and it like the Mona Lisa, and he'll recreate all these great, but they're gone as soon as it rains.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like unbelievable you do all that work, but then it's gone. Yeah. So, but it is, I love seeing them. I think it's so cool.
Oh, yeah. I have fun doing them. They're relaxing for me. Tanner likes them. He's a good canvas. So, yeah.
He gets to lay around.
Yeah. And yeah, they're fun.
So where do we go from here? You're very happy right now. Mm-hmm. And I can tell that you've always been a very positive person, but the last few times I've gotten the chance to see you and talk to you, I feel like you're in a really, really good place right now. And I can see how happy and excited you are. So what's our goals? Where are we going to go from here?
So I went to Ivy Tech for a little bit for supply chain logistics management. And I actually did that before I went to Walmart. So it just kind of went hand in hand after I went there. So that worked out good. So hopefully in the next couple of years, I will, try to go for management there. There's just so many things with it. I really lived there. So that's what I'm going to put my time and energy into. And I don't know. A lot of my friends are getting houses. I have a fear of commitment. So I just kind of bounce around, and that's how I've always been. And so that used to bother me a lot. I'd be like, oh my gosh, why don't I want to get this? Because my grandparents have a lot of property. Mm-hmm. So eventually it would not be a big deal to build a house out there. But then I'm like, well, I didn't like driving 40 minutes to town to see my friends. So I kind of like being out and about. I like going home too. So I think for right now, I like having apartments.
What do you think causes that fear of commitment?
I don't know. I think a lot of it goes back to me just kind of like taking off when I was younger, because like I said, I moved probably every 4 months when I did the horses, and you just get used to that. And even being here, I've been home from that, so probably 4 years. And that was always a big depression thing for me. I would get very depressed if I didn't start something new or, get something, because I really lose interest in things. Once I feel like I've achieved everything that I want to
There's
with
no
it,
more interest
right,
in it.
So then I'm kind of done with it. So, yeah, that's something personal that I have to keep working on, is finding new goals and being healthy about it, being, setting stuff realistic that I can do and keeping focus on that. So,
well, and it's interesting to me. We interviewed the king of the hobos, and he is a true still American hobo and jumps trains and goes around and works. And it was amazing to me, and the way he described it, it made so much sense. As he said, "You get homesick." Mm-hmm. He said, "So when I go on vacation, which I'm the world's worst, like 3 days anywhere else is more than enough for me."
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, so that's you getting homesick. He said, I get wanderlust. He said, I can't stand being anywhere for a long period of time. And at that point, he had been here about 2.5 weeks, and he was like, it's time for me to go.
Yeah.
I need to go. I need to be somewhere else. I need to see something else. And so it is. It's just, it's what makes humans great is how different we can be. So yeah. I will tell you this. I think you're fine. Well, even if all your friends are getting houses, do you?
Yeah.
I think it's awesome that you're finding those things and doing that. So here's the other thing I want to ask you about. As we kind of look back, obviously I am still working with kids. What would you say to a young Rachel that may be in high school now that's starting to feel those same things and saying, I don't feel like I'm equal. I have friends. I don't want it to make it sound like you were this total outsider. You had tons of friends, but you didn't fit in, not in the sense saying you didn't fit in doesn't sound right, but it's true. Mm-hmm. You were accepted.
Yeah,
you just
I had my own group of friends, and we did our own thing. And yeah,
I don't want it to sound negative, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But you were just, like we talked earlier, you were different in the sense that you had other things going on bigger than, who got the latest lip gloss or whatever was the big thing in high school. So what would you tell a student right now that's kind of going through those things?
For a really long time, I would always like be upset with myself, like, oh, why didn't you just try harder? You could have, done this, this, and this. But now looking back, I'm like, it was never something you would have been happy with. Like, yeah, you could have, buckled down and tried harder and worked harder and got your high school. Like, that's very true. But, and I'm not encouraging anybody to not do those things. I that's the easy way to go. That's the best, most safe and, productive way to go. But, looking back at it now, there was no other way for me. I had to, so just go with what is best. It doesn't have to look right to everybody else. Whatever you feel in your heart is best to do. If you're spending every day at school and you're failing and you're beating yourself up about it, because a lot of people think I didn't care because I would, but I would just kick myself every day. I'd be like, oh my God, why couldn't you have just, been able to do that?
See, that surprises me because I never got that feeling from you. Mm-hmm. I never got the feeling, even as a young teacher, I never looked at you and thought, she doesn't even care about this. I looked at you and honestly, and that's probably, there's probably a lot of principals that would say this is crazy that I would have you on my podcast and talk about your path because, no, I don't want any kid to leave the high school and not graduate. But I looked at you and knew that, yes, your path was going to take a lot of twists and turns and ups and downs and backtracks and moving forward. But I always had confidence and knew that you would get to where you were supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's what made it so easy for me just to say, I support you. Let's go and do what you need to do. Definitely.
And, for kids to go through school and do, graduate and everything like that, I think that's the best, obviously, way to go for sure. But when you're like me and you've had some things go on where you don't feel right and you want to get moving into something else, your time is precious. So if you're spending it every day at school, you're not doing well, get out and go, put your efforts towards something. Because you never know. You could go a million different. I went to 5 different states before I was 18. So, your time is precious and just put it into the goals that you need to put in.
And when we talk about mental health, were you really miserable when you were in school?
Yeah, not because of school, because of me and my life situations, but going to school made me realize that a lot more because I wasn't into the things everybody else was. So that just kind of made me feel, homecoming.
It just keeps building the fact that you don't fit in, that you're not supposed to be here.
So in the end, do I wish I did that differently and better? Of course. But am I mad at myself anymore? No, I'm totally happy with, I've got so many experiences. I'm pretty tough because of all the stuff that's happened, and I wouldn't trade that back for sure.
And I think it's really interesting when we talk about, high school, and it's something that, I don't know how to fix it, but it's something that's on my mind with it. When we talk about we're preparing kids for adulthood, but like you just said, we really didn't prepare you for adulthood because you needed the opportunity to have a lot of different experiences than the traditional high school experience and the traditions that we hold on to there, like homecoming, like prom, like that kind of stuff. You needed more risk. You needed the opportunity to fail and come back and fail and come back. And I think so often in high school, in public school and in general, we try to protect you from failing so much that you don't learn those experiences and those kind of things. And I will agree with you 100% because I will say I had you in class and you were beyond intelligent enough to not just graduate high school, but do very well in high school. But I don't know that you ever could have.
Right, exactly.
And I don't mean that in a knock in any way, shape, or form. You know the way I feel about you. But I think even if you had, I don't know that your mental health would have been in the spot that it should be.
Oh, yeah. And high school is a tough time for anybody. That's a terrible time is when you're in high school. You're a teenager. There's nothing worse than that. It's everything is a huge deal. So when you add on top of that some experiences, it just makes it 10 times worse. So being dramatic in high school is you have to be that's just who you are. Your anatomy has designed you to be that way. So yeah, everything is traumatic and stuff like that. And I was definitely, in high school, everything just was blown way out of proportion, for sure. So I can see that being part of the reason why I didn't feel like I fit in there too, because it was regular stuff that was happening, but to me it was huge. So I can see how kids feel that way, for sure.
Well, we are at 45 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
And I want to tell you this before we wrap up here, and I mean this wholeheartedly. And I know that you know this, but I am so absolutely proud of you.
Thank you.
You are by far one of my favorite students that I have ever had. And this is what, for those out there who are considering going into education, this right here is the reason to do it. And I mean it, because I have been blessed that you and I have been able to stay in contact for pretty much the last 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it was through your brothers when I was coaching them, or now we actually stay in touch on Facebook and those kind of things. I am so proud of you. I am so excited to see where you go from there, and I want you to know that you make us very proud, even though you took a non-traditional route. And keep doing what you're doing, keep impressing, and just keep moving forward.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming on.